Namaste, everyone. So I'm going to go over now another SAS, which is a safe alignment skill, and it's called positioning pelvis. And the only thing that you really need to know, that's the most important thing about positioning your pelvis, is that sometimes your pelvis needs to be in a neutral position, sometimes it needs to be in a forward position, and sometimes it needs to be in a back position, in a backward position for different yoga poses. I'm just going to kind of go over those three different positions with you so you can see how important it is. And what's important about it is that we're not putting additional load on the lower back in some of these particular poses. So let me stand up. And if you just first kind of imagine, well, put your hands right here, just sort of on the top of your hip pointers. And if you imagine that your pelvis has a bowl in it and it's filled with water, and just when you're touching your fingers right at the top of the hip pointers, just kind of notice, is there a natural sort of forward, downward tilt of those hip pointers, or if there's sort of a natural falling back of those hip pointers? And one isn't necessarily right or wrong. Right now you're just gathering information about who you are and how you just typically stand. All right, so now let's put our hands on the front of the hip pointers and then your fingers back a little bit more. That's at the rim of the pelvis. And I'm actually going to side turn so you can see a little bit better. So I'm just standing with my legs hip-width distance apart. Right now for me and my body, this is a neutral position. And I can feel that where my fingers are on the top of my hip pointers and where my thumbs come to the crest of the pelvis, that there's a leveling, right? So this would not be a leveling. Tailbone all the way under, hips slung all the way under. And actually what's happening here is the chest is falling and the upper back is falling down on the lower back. And that puts a certain amount of load on the lower back in certain yoga poses. And this position is called a posterior tilt for the pelvis. Now I'm going to go ahead and do totally opposite. I'm going to move past the backward position and go into a forward tilt position. And this is called an anterior rotated pelvis. And now I can feel in my hands, and I don't know if you can see it on the film or not, but I can feel in my hands that my thumbs have lifted and my fingertips on the front have gone down. And if there were a bowl of water here, the water would be spilling and falling all the way forward. If I go back to that posterior, that back tilt, the water would be falling back and down. So here's back and down, posterior tilt. Here's forward, that's anterior tilt. And here's neutral position. This position right here, it's helpful as we're going into standing forward bends and some other poses. But you have to remember that even though your pelvis is tilting forward, there are other segments of the spine that need to respond as well. So even though I tilt forward, if I tilt too far forward, I start to crunch in my lower back. So although the pelvis is moving in a direction, it's informing what the rest of the back has to do. Same thing here. If I go all the way back, my tailbone slings all the way under. I actually end up flattening my lower back. That's not such a great position to be in. Can I get my tailbone to go down and still inform the rest of the back to lift up, perhaps in back bends? So now you've sort of understood what has to happen. Let's see who you are. Come back to the front of the mat again. Put your hands on the front of your pelvis. Fingertips on the front, thumbs to the back side of the crest of the pelvis. And then just imagine, okay, if I had a bowl of water sitting in my pelvis, would the water be tilted in this neutral, my neutral position, whatever that is? Would it be tilted forward or would it be tilted back? And go back and forth and just see where your natural position is. And then use that as a way to inform your back to lift. Bring your arms back down alongside your body and see if you can feel how this just changes your Tadasana, your mountain pose. If you can feel that, you can sense how it changed all the rest of your poses, where pelvic position is very important. Thanks for listening. Namaste.